This is the position from the last game where white is 7 moves away from a checkmate. Can you figure out what 7 moves need to be made? Set up this position on your computer, or even on a chessboard, and try to figure out how to win in 7 games. Or in 7 moves, not 7 games. That would take a long time. But in 7 moves. And I'm going to go through some of the moves here, and if you want to pause in between each move and try to guess the move from there, that would be fantastic. So from this position right here, what do you think would be the number 1 move for white? You can pause if you want to. The best move for white is to take the knight and move it here to d5, checking the king and also attacking the queen at the same time. The queen is going to go down, and it's going to be a scalp for white, no matter what. As a general rule, most players try to get what they can out of a capture, so I'm going to guess that black would probably try to move to e6 to at least try to get some points back for that. Now, white, and I'm sure you probably see what move you would like to make, but there's actually a better move. Because my first thought too, and I'm guessing your move as well, would be for the knight to capture the queen. But that actually is not the best move, and not the one that will checkmate your opponent in 6 more moves. Do you see another way that you could attack? And I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the queen. And there's 2 potential queen moves. Either queen to a8 for check, or queen to g4, which is check. Take a moment and figure out which one you would do. The correct answer is queen to g4, another check. Here, black has 2 choices. Black can either block the queen by putting the black queen in front, or could escape by moving down to e5. Black can't go to e7 because of the knight, and black can't go to d7 because of the queen. So which of those 2 moves do you think would be best for black? Moving the queen down or moving the king down? The correct answer is actually moving the king down. Because if black were to move the queen down, then white would take the queen with their queen, and it would be an instant checkmate, and the game would be over. So the only way that black can keep this going is by moving the king to e5. Now, what is the next move? This could be very confusing, and I tell chess players that when they are getting to an endgame or getting close to where they think they can checkmate the king, to keep putting the king in check. Now, sometimes when chess players put a piece like a king in check over and over again, it really prolongs the game. So it's a good idea for chess players to think of some other ways that they might be able to put their opponent into check rather than the obvious ways. The number 1 move, there's actually 3 number 1 moves. You could either move pawn to f4, you could move bishop to f4, or you could move queen to g3. Any one of those would cause a win. What I'm going to do, because if you move to g3, the queen could move back up here again. So just to save time, let's do bishop to f4, which would be a check. Now the king has only 1 flight square. And again, you want to keep the king in check in these positions. So here, there's actually a lot of different ways that you can put the king into check. With my own personal playing, I prefer not to keep moving the same piece, so I would not want to move the bishop. In fact, going with that same idea of using a new piece to check the king, do you see what you could use? If you said pawn to c3, that is correct. So now the king is in check here. King can't move here. In fact, king only has one place to go. Actually, two places to go. If the king takes the pawn right here, then bishop to e3 is a checkmate, I believe. Let me see. Oh, I see. So if the king takes here, like this, and the bishop moves down to e3, that would be a checkmate. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to move the king here to c5, which is the other way to escape. Do you see another way to put the king in check? Now this time, it's okay to use a piece that you had used before to check. And the reason why is in chess we talk about the electric fence, and you've been building an electric fence over here against the king. Well, the king, by you moving the bishop here, sets up another electric fence, so the king can no longer go here. The king has to keep getting backed into this area right here. And so there it's a good idea to go ahead and move that piece a second time. And it wasn't two consecutive moves in a row. So now black has two moves that it could possibly make. One, it can block the check with either knight to d4 or with queen to d4. And I'm going to guess that most chess players probably would not want to sacrifice their piece. You might be thinking about like b5, but that is being protected by the bishop right here. And I would guess most players would not want to sacrifice their queen. So they would probably move the knight there, and also opening up this area right here. So now there's only one way, and again it means putting the king back in check again. And the only way to put the king back in check again is by capturing the knight with the pawn. And there's check again. There's only one thing that black can do. Actually, there's two things that black can do to prevent checkmate. One is to put the queen here to d4. That's a one-move checkmate. Also, moving the king here to c6, which is a checkmate. And what we'll do is, again, I'm going to guess that players probably would not want to sacrifice their queen. So we'll move the king to c6. And this move right here is checkmate. Do you see the checkmate? Again, in order to have checkmate, you have to put your opponent into check. And the way you do that is with the rook to c1. And black is checkmated.